At from We the People News, which I'm sure is a very reputable source. Let's take a look at Princess Diana and JFK Jr. still alive? Question mark. It's a rule in journalism typically that you don't want to have a headline that someone can look at and immediately respond yes or no to. It breaks that rule. Princess Diana and JFK Jr. alive? No. But let's take a look at the video and see why they think they are.
You'll ever be queen?
No, I don't. No.
Why do you think that?
I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts, in people's hearts. But I don't see myself being queen of this country. I don't think many people would want me to be queen. Actually, when I say many people, I mean the establishment that I'm married into. Because they've decided that I'm a non-starter.
Why do you think they've decided that?
Because I do things differently. Because I don't go by a rule book. Because I lead from the heart. I just don't think I have as many supporters in that environment than I did. Yeah.
You mean within the royal household?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They see me as a threat of some kind. And I'm here to do good, not to dissemble.
That's not about a conspiracy. It's well known that, like, Diana was not someone that most of the royal family liked. She was too common, you know? She wasn't all for the pomp and the bullshit of being a royal. Yeah, they didn't like her. That's not about a conspiracy. Desk Lang, thanks for subscribing for 4 months. It's always fun to see what the conspiracy theorists put in the montages for their intros. Kind of gives you a nice focus on, like, okay, what's this person's favorite pet conspiracy theories? Remember that time that, like, a bunch of presidents and ex-presidents and first ladies and stuff went to a funeral? I don't even remember whose funeral it was. And they were reading, like, you know, special letters that they got at the funeral. And conspiracy theorists were like, OMG, they're being told some secret Q stuff. Like, these are letters that are telling them they're fucked. Oh, it was McCain's. You're right. It might have been McCain's. And it's like, no, they're just at a funeral. It's fine. Like Max says, basically Diana was basic. I wouldn't say Diana was basic. I would say the royal family are elitist, snobby pieces of shit. Oh, was it George H.W.'s funeral? Okay. Creepy UFO babies. It's a long intro. Get to the conspiracy. We get it. They had a little disclaimer.
Good morning, Patriots. So, I woke up this morning. David Zublik was reporting that JFK Jr. and Princess Diana...
You know what I appreciate? Lady conspiracy theorist. Conspiracy theory are dominated by dudes. More lady conspiracy theorists.
And were alive, and so I started to do my own research.
She did her own research by watching other people's shitty Rumble videos.
Find this article from conspiracydailyupdate.com. Now,
Oh, she did her research on conspiracydailyupdate.com, the most reputable source available.
I've always suspected that they were alive. JFK Jr. has been spotted many times at the Trump rallies wearing kind of a disguise.
No, that's not him. It's just some rando.
Same with Diana.
Yes, that counts as research, not by a researcher on the bingo card.
There was photos that were put out a long time ago where people were spotting various people that they thought were dead.
Gaslight gatekeep girl-anon.
And Diana was one of them. So there's suspicion has been around for a while. And it makes sense because JFK Jr. knew that there was a deep state and that they killed his father.
No. JFK was killed by a crazy guy in a book depository. Why am I blanking on his name? I know his name. There was an episode of Quantum Leap where Sam leapt into him. Why is my reference for every historical event some random TV show or movie? I need to read more books. Lee Harvey Oswald. Thank you.
He knew that. So obviously he knew that they were going to target him. And he probably, figured out their plan and, faked his death that way.
You think you're gonna assassinate me? I'll assassinate myself and go into hiding for 20 years, and then start going to Donald Trump rallies when he inevitably runs for president in 2016. Galaxy brain.
I also knew Joe Biden was a traitor to the country.
Wow, that's impressive that he knew that and was focused on that. Even Joe Biden wasn't the president in 1999 when JFK Jr. died. He was just a senator, whatever.
Sent Joe Biden a note telling him so. So, JFK Jr. then became a target for being, suicided, I guess. So, the story, as written here, is what happened.
I kind of wish Biden was as badass as they pretend he is in conspiracy circles. It'd be interesting to see maniacal assassin Biden destroying his political enemies with their malarkey. Casper the Lord of Dark says, who reads nowadays? And Wagrode says, TV is more memorable than textbooks. I guess. That's not good, though. My frame of reference for Lee Harvey Oswald should not be... It shouldn't be, Scott Bakula pretending to be him while talking to a hologram,
And how these people got together. And I'm going to go ahead and just read it. What if... And this is, it says, Princess Diana, she knew the royals wanted her dead. So, like another, she faked her death. Allied with the one person.
That's actually one that wouldn't surprise me. I don't believe it, implicitly, because I've not seen any evidence to that effect. But, like, if tomorrow some actual documentation came out that's like, oh, the royal family had Diana killed because they thought they made them look bad, I'd be like, oh, that tracks. Again, I don't believe it because I don't think there's evidence of that. But it's one of those ones that's like, yeah... The obscenely wealthy and powerful probably kill people sometimes. It wouldn't surprise me. But you can't make that claim without evidence. That's not cool. Not That Fragile says, I'm only listening to the audio and this lady sounds exactly like the 19 Kids and Counting mom.
Person whom she knew she could trust. And together they developed a plan. She was constantly talking to her, I guess it's her maid. And I remember back in the day that, some of these people, like the maid or the people that worked underneath Diana to help, like her personal assistant, she would confide in them, and then they would sometimes, after her death, they would tell kind of the things that she said. And, she did talk about, I remember this, the royals being reptilians, and I thought, well, maybe she meant that they're just like, creepy or something. And I remember going, that's weird. But she literally used that word. Now, my understanding is that they're...
According to some random housekeeper who presumably went to a tabloid and was like, let me tell you what Princess Diana said to me before she died, and she can't confirm or deny because she's dead. She said the royals are lizard people. Totes, believe me.
Hybrids. These royal families, like the Duke of Orange, all these royal families, the Rothschilds, the royal family.
It's always interesting to me that Trump is exempt from this, even though he has, inherited wealth. He's like a dynasty. Trump isn't a reptoid, though, because he's a good guy, clearly. Does that count for reptilians on bingo? You bet it does. I think we have my research, said not by a researcher, and we have reptilians.
The Lee family, the 13 bloodlines, they are what, they're not pure reptilian, but what they are is they have high levels of that blood, the reptilian blood in them. And
is that like they do a blood transfusion, or like their mom banged a lizard? I can't tell what you mean.
So we call them hybrids, and they consider themselves above humanity and different from humanity. And they obviously act different. They act like reptiles.
In what way? I've never seen the Queen of England basking under a sun lamp for 8 hours. Like, what do you mean they act like reptiles?
They have no empathy. They're all like...
They unhinge their jaws and they eat their prey whole. What do you mean they act like reptiles?
Sociopaths, and they're greedy, and all they want is money and power.
Yeah, that's just being a selfish, rich asshole. I've never seen a lizard break up a union. You know what I mean? Like, that's not lizard behavior. That's not reptoid behavior. That's human, selfish, capitalist behavior. They bleed green like Spock. So they're Vulcans, then. That's not a lizard person.
And they consider humanity to be like chattel, to be like, disposable.
Again, you're describing the ultra-wealthy. They're not reptiles. They're just assholes. What's with all the harmful stereotyping of reptilians? I know. It's unfortunate.
And, Princess Diana married into the family, so she wasn't part of that. And so she recognized...
Is the lizard stuff count as thinly veiled anti-Semitism? There are situations where I think it can be, depending on how it's presented. I don't think here that's her intention, so I'm going to say no in this case. That doesn't mean it never is, but I don't think it is here, unless she expounds further and it gets, yikesy. Kippy says, oh, she means act reptilian, as in acts like my perception of Jewish people. Again, I don't know if she knows she's doing that. That's the thing about some of these conspiracy theorists, is even the ones that aren't really anti-Semitic tend to pick up the talking points of the anti-Semitic ones, and they'll just apply it to, like, reptoids as opposed to, like, an ethnic or religious group. So it's usually a tough call. This one, I'm going to say, I don't think she's doing it intentionally. I don't think she's trying to dog whistle. I think she's just picked up language that's sort of been laundered through the conspiracy laundering process. That's how a lot of these conspiracy theories work. It'll take something awful, anti-Semitism, or like authoritarian control of the government, and it'll sort of launder those ideas through conspiracies to make them more palatable to people who otherwise might not be susceptible. So I think that's what's happening here. I don't necessarily think she's intentionally being anti-Semitic. Again, I could be wrong. As we continue to watch this video, maybe I'll be proven wrong. Rothschilds is thinly veiled anti-Semitism. I could see it. Again, I don't know if she's intentionally doing that or if she just picked it up from someone else. Let's watch the video for a little bit longer and I'll make a call on that. I'm not positive yet.
Recognized right away that these people were evil, and she would even say that they were evil. Man,
Does it count as aliens? Not necessarily. They don't always think reptilians are aliens.
I was into reading all that stuff when I was younger, and I remember her saying some stuff about the royal family. That was kind of shocking, about how evil they were, how they eat children and stuff. And I remember thinking, she's just joking, or that can't be true, you know?
It's not true.
I mean, back in those days, we didn't hear anything about this stuff.
Yeah, because you didn't have access to internet echo chambers full of weird randos posting bullshit for each other to feed upon.
Reptilian stuff. So now it seems to make sense. All right, let me read the article. This is about a beautifully good princess and two strapping young men who chose a totally different path than being part of the elite dark cabal who were in the same circles, but never conformed to them. These three co-created a plan that was literally shaken and shattered our techno-matrix world. Meet the beautiful, pure, good, and lovely Princess Diana. She was forced into a marriage where she was nothing more than a breeder for the reptilian royal family, who, in Diana's words, at 19, was forced to marry a man only using her to bear his children, and then she would be thrown aside. She quickly learned about the horrific crimes of the queen.
Who's the source on this claim? Again, obviously Diana's dead. It's not coming directly from her. So who's claiming she said this?
And royal family. She realized they, the queen, ran many of the secret societies, ate, raped, and trafficked children while ritually sacrificing them to Satan.
These people have a weird focus on Satan. That's Satanism on the bingo card. Satanic ritual child abuse.
How does a good and beautiful princess...
Can you become reptilian? Can I? I'm already reptilian. I was born a reptilian. Can you become one? I guess. Sure. You'd have to subsist on my blood for several months, but you could do it.
Handle this when she's in a situation with no control and powerless. Her boys, she had little control over. They were to be groomed to take roles of power and authority. She was told she was nothing more than a breeder. Her relationship with the queen was horrible. She hated the queen, and the queen hated her.
That, I think, is true. They didn't have a great relationship.
She even specifically said that the queen is evil.
I could see her saying that. The queen is probably evil in the colloquial sense. Admiral Owl, thanks for subscribing for 12 months. Happy anniversary.
Where does this leave her?
Can you get a bingo link? Yeah, sure. If you ever want a bingo link, all you have to do is do ! Bingo, and it'll pop up. Or it should. Is Streamlabs not working well right now? Weird. The Streamlabs bot must not be working. Let me get you a link to the bingo card, sorry. Why can't I actually get to the page? Play online. There we go. There's a link. Actually, you might want this one.
A major threat, and she knew this. So what does a beautiful, good princess do when she knows her fate is going to be death? And who wants nothing more than to bring down the evil to avenge what was done to her and her sons? Who did she entrust to help her flee? JFK Jr. and Donald Trump. She knew they were good. They knew she was good. The plan started after JFK was assassinated for starting to take down the dark cabal. Donald and JFK Jr. were a huge part of that plan. And so was the good and beautiful Princess Diana, who...
It's like a fairy tale. The good and beautiful Princess Diana. Like, what does this have to do? You're not writing a goddamn children's book. Stop it.
better to take down than the royals, but an insider whose life was destroyed by the royals.
Andrew Patella says, hold on, if the royals are reptilians and Diana was forced to marry into the royal family, why haven't we heard any of that from Meghan Markle? I know, right? It doesn't make sense.
JFK Jr. and Donald knew the royals had to be destroyed as they were the figureheads of the crown, and the crown owned the United States. They knew.
We actually had a war over that. No, they don't.
We would never be freed unless the crown and the banking system was demolished.
Mike Mack says, so you're telling me that a group of aliens were in control of a major government but somehow lost their control? So are they good at their jobs or not? Right? Doesn't make sense. It's always funny, too, that they talk about the banking systems, and unfortunately it tends to have, that is going to be thinly veiled anti-Semitism. I'm making a call on it with the banking thing. Which is funny because, like, the root cause of their thinking isn't wrong in the sense that the global system of, like, banking and capital as it exists currently, completely divorced from who runs it. This has nothing to do with anyone's religion or ethnicity or anything. I don't care anything about that. I'm strictly talking about how capital is controlled in the world. They're not wrong that there are issues with it and it causes wealth disparity and all sorts of, like, favoritism and stuff. It's not good. But, like, why do they always make it an anti-Semitic thing? Why is it a racial thing? What the fuck? Not every banker is Jewish. It has nothing to do with being Jewish or Christian or anything else. It's just an economic issue. Princess Amelia says, been a while since I've heard any Princess Diana conspiracy. I see they've become considerably more unhinged over the past 20 years. Yep, that'll happen. Do we not have dog whistles on the bingo sheet? I feel like we should. Oh, that's basically a free space.
Diana was the perfect kingpin. In the summer of 1995, a secret meeting was arranged between Diana and JFK Jr. An arrangement was made, and her fake death was planned, and her place in the plan was established. The cover for details was plotted. Then in December 1995, 6 months later, she and Donald end up at a charity event together, and even coincidentally end up at the same table. Donald played...
That is a coincidence, yes. They're both wealthy people in high society. They're gonna rub elbows at some point. That's not shocking.
...his part well, first flattering her, then going on and on about her in a less flattering way. But that was important, as it kept all suspicion at bay. After her divorce was finalized, a handwritten letter was sent to Donald from Diana. This was the go-ahead. The plan and cover began to unfold.
Again, you're just reading fan fiction. Why do you think any of this is true? Mike Mack says, the royal family are werewolves, not reptiles. You want to know how I know? Simply do your own research, sheeple. I've seen that documentary about that doctor fellow in his box. I've seen that.
And she died almost exactly 1 year from her divorce. And she died exactly 2 years from meeting JFK Jr., and JFK Jr. died exactly...
JFK Jr. looks a lot like Ted Danson in this photo. Like 1980s Ted Danson. You know what I mean? I was gonna say hot Ted Danson, but actually... I think Ted Danson in The Good Place is really attractive. Like his whole vibe and his outfits. Is that just me? No? Okay. Morok says, incoherent screaming. This is nuts. Like, what the fuck? Like, look at that. Look at this man. Tell me that's not attractive? Tellurian Katrin says, all these fake death conspiracies sound like wishful thinking to me, in a similar vein to the belief in heaven. I guess it's not all that surprising that Q people are weirdly Christian mystical. Yeah. By the way, if you haven't seen The Good Place, check it out. I think it's on Netflix. Watch it. Don't spoil yourself. Don't Google anything about it. Just go watch The Good Place, okay? Trust me. Kippy says we could benefit from one day having a whole discussion and learning day about anti-Semitism in history because people are really not aware of most of it these days. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Exactly. Almost to the date, 2 years after Diana. No coincidence. There's no way that Diana and JFK Jr. would be able to execute their plan alive. There wasn't any choice, and their lives were in danger. So 3 short weeks before Diana's death entered Dodi. Just 3 weeks was the extent of their relationship. He was the cover, and he was also the connection to the good side of the House of Saud. Think Godfather 3. His grandfather was the doctor of King Salman. JFK Jr. and Donald knew that there were 2 sides to the House of Saud, and they knew that the good side, Salman, wanted to break free from the bad side, Mob Prince Alweed side. The bad side of the House of Saud was funding most of the corruption, and they were a big part of the funding to the crown. Donald and JFK Jr. arranged with them.
I shouldn't have to say this, but nobody spoil any Good Place stuff in chat for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's an amazing show, and I don't want anyone to have anything ruined for them. Just watch the show.
Through Dodi, that if they...
Yeah, did she cite Godfather 3? Out of all the Godfather films to cite, you picked the worst one.
Good side of House of Saud kept Diana safe, they would free them from the bad side that had been running the show. Al-Walid. And by eliminating the bad side, you eliminate the funding to the dark cabal, crown, and free the Solomon side of the evil mob. And in exchange for their freedom, Diana is kept safe and helps take down the royals with all her inside information. Now remember, Obama was groomed by the Alawid side, the Saudis, before he came over to the United States. He was groomed by them. And
no! Be trippin'! No! Do not do the birther shit. Come on, are we still on this? For fuck's sake.
they paid for him to go to, was it Princeton or Harvard? It was Princeton. So there's...
I thought Obama went to Harvard. Obama degree. Yeah, he got his law degree from Harvard, and he got his he got his bachelor's from Columbia.
That connection. So they are part of trying to take this country down, the bad side of the House of Saud. And okay, this is Q Post 134, dated November 11th, 2000.
Q claimed as a source on the bingo card. She's literally just citing a Q post, so you can't get more Q claimed as a source than that. You bet $1 it's because he's black. I'd bet $1 million it's because he's black.
2017. This post came out at the beginning of the Q post in November. I mean, it really started late October, but this is pretty new. It says, why were the events in Saudi Arabia extraordinary? Who was arrested? What will bank records provide? List names, family history, investment, ownership, stakes, and point-to-point contacts. Example, Alawid, Huma, Barack Obama, Citigroup, U.S. control. Why is...
By the way, if you've never seen a Q post before, this is what they all look like. So if you think the Q posts are like really coherent and say clear messages, they don't. They say stuff like this. Why were the events in Saudi Arabia extraordinary? Who was arrested? What will bank records provide? List names, family history, investments, ownership, stakes, and point-to-point contacts. Alawid, Huma, Bo, Citigroup, U.S. control. Why is it relevant? House of Saud, U.S. control. This is what basically all the Q posts look like, and there are thousands of them. I would argue, and this is brilliant, by the way, it's evil, but it's brilliant. I don't know who concocted Q originally, though it's thought pretty clearly at some point Ron and Jim Watkins stepped in when it moved over to 8chan. But prior to that, we don't necessarily know who it was. Whoever concocted this is a fucking genius in terms of understanding conspiracy thinking. Because a lot of people come out with conspiracy theories that are exactly spelled out. And they'll say, like, this is what I think is happening, this is that. And that'll get some people on board if it's interesting enough, right? But if you want to create a super conspiracy theory, if you want to create the pandemic of conspiracy theories, if you will, what you do is you ask questions to conspiracy theorists like this, vaguely, and let them argue amongst themselves and fill in the blanks. Then you get the bakers. These are called crumbs, right? The Q posts have crumbs in them, and then in the Q community, there are people called bakers who are basically Q grifters who look at the Q posts and try and come up with answers to these questions, which develops the general Q narrative, right? It becomes a communal activity for people in the Q community to try and decipher the Q posts, right? And that makes it more interesting than just listening to someone tell you exactly what the conspiracy is, although a lot of people at the, bottom of the pyramid in the Q community absolutely do that and discuss it amongst themselves. Like, the mid-level Q people are active participants in developing the narrative, and that's what made it so virulent. This is why it's become like the #1 conspiracy on the planet, because anyone can look at these posts and read their personal conspiracy theory into this. It's brilliant. It's maniacal, and it's evil, and it's terrible, but it's fucking brilliant. I'm not trying to give kudos to bad people here. I'm really not. It's terrible. It's one of the worst things that's happened to, like, the public consciousness, and I don't even know how long, maybe since the Cold War, but, like, you gotta look at it and go, someone had a really, really brilliant strategy here. It's just evil. Princess Amelia says it's exactly what Nostradamus did. Yeah. Did I watch the HBO Q miniseries? Made it clear how much of a loser Watkins is. I watched part of it. I still gotta finish it. I don't know. I like the documentary, but there was just something off about it. I wish they'd gotten more into, like, what QAnon people believe and why, and it wasn't really about that. I don't know. Mike Max says, 10 more days until all of you Satanists are arrested. It's always 10 days. That's the fun part. Pulp Free Fiction says, Q is an ARG-type storytelling applied to real conspiracy theorists. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Is this relevant? House of Sod. House of Sod, U.S. control. Follow the money. What power shift recently occurred? Was a new king appointed? Coincidence, dark to light. Why is this relevant? One side of the triangle removed. First time in history. Other sides falling. And then there's plus, 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 and then plus, plus, and then plus. So these are all representing some of the members of the Q team. Like Q plus is considered to be Donald Trump, for example. So the other two I'm not sure of. But this is just showing you at the very beginning of all these Q posts that they took down one side of the House of Sod so that because it was connected, it was the evil side, and it was funding Barack Obama, it was funding the the royal family, follow the money, just, it was a huge part. They couldn't move forward until they took down that part of the House of Sod. And so what was left was the good side. And I think that was the first.
So, okay, guys, Saudi Arabia's totes good now. Don't worry about their human rights abuses. It's cool.
Thing they needed to do to move forward in the
Donald Trump helped take out the evil ones.
In the Alliance's White Hat's plan. So, the good side of the House of Sod needed Diana's knowledge of the royal connections to take down the bad side of the House of Sod, who was connected to the crown and funding the royals and the corruption. Remember, in the very beginning of the Q drops, the Saudi Arabia takedown was so important because it cut the funding ties to all the corruption. They had to be the first to go without their ties being cut. Nothing else could have happened. Their funding cut, but put a big squash in the royals' funding, making them weak and neutralizing their power. Princess Diana went to JFK Jr. for advice. She met him in New York City to talk. JFK Jr. faked his death, so did she. They had two cars alike. She wasn't in the car they thought she was in. She went through the same scenario as JFK Jr. That car was sabotaged to crash in the tunnel, and thus she fooled her murderers.
Again, how? You're telling fan fiction, but you need to explain how. This reminds me of that movie, I think it's called, like, Now You See It, or something, which is a brilliant premise for a movie, executed incredibly poorly, and the premise is, like, magicians rob a bank using their magician skills. Like, oh, that's a cool setup. Like, you could do some interesting things with that. But what the movie does is it doesn't actually explain how they're doing the tricks, and the tricks aren't realistic. It's just like they're doing actual magic. Like, it doesn't, like, none of the tricks are plausible in any way, shape, or form. It basically just looks like they're doing magic and they never explain it. Same thing here. You can say all you want, oh, she faked her death and tricked everyone. Alright, that's a claim. How are you claiming she did this? Like, that's... Did she have a body double? Did they build, like, a fake meat Diana that the coroner would identify? How did this work? Where did she go? Who were her accomplices? Like, you can't just make these claims. It's the same thing. It's like you're trying to perform actual magic as opposed to showing how the trick is done. JFK Jr. and Diana are alive, but in the TVA.
It was sabotaged, but made them believe she was in there. She's a very wise woman, just like JFK Jr. People mainly believe what the media says. Prince Harry joined her. They will all see the military tribunals at Guantanamo Bay and worldwide, and Diana and JFK Jr. will come out of hiding to complete and celebrate with us when Jasara comes out this summer of 2020. Well, it's going to be 2021.
I like, even in the fan fiction article, it's like, this is going to happen in the summer of 2020, because the article was clearly written before that. And she's got to, on the fly, be like, well, now it'll be in 2021. Sure it will. Is it going to be 2022 now? Because we're over halfway done with the year. Just checking. Morok says, I've watched the documentary Full Metal Alchemist. I know you can use alchemy to create cadavers with the proper dental records to fake someone's death.
She also, the last president, what a 127-year-old book reveals about Donald Trump, time travel, and Nikola Tesla. All right. This is a tweet. I was chatting to a lady on one of the lockdown protests, and she was telling me her French friend attended the crash scene, and Diana was walking to the ambulance with a suspected broken collarbone. Both JFK Jr. and Diana to wake up the world.
So she's citing a Twitter post where a lady... Okay, let's see how many degrees of separation is this. Okay. This person on Rumble is reading a tweet of a woman who claims she met a person at a rally who had a friend who attended who claims she saw Diana. A friend of a friend of a friend, someone I know who knows someone who knows someone, said they saw Diana walk away from the crash. Did they listen to themselves? Are they this dumb? You know, I heard a person post that another person heard another person's friend. This isn't how this works. Lily Love Stuff says, wait, wasn't Obama to Cronaut who worked on time travel base on Mars as a kid with Anthony Basiago? Is this a reference to something I don't get?
Very interesting. And there's a...
Mike Mack says, I am your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate. Well, what does that make us? Nothing!
A few more articles, I guess, posted here that are related.
Yeah, this is actually funny. So Disney was working on a ride called like Superstar Limo, and it was going to be very similar to their Aerosmith Rock and Roller Coaster at MGM Studios. The premise was going to be it's an indoor roller coaster ride where you get into a limo. That's really, it's a, you know, a car for a roller coaster, but it's styled to look like a limo. And it was going to be, you're being chased by the paparazzi, and the limo is, you know, going through a roller coaster, and it looks like Hollywood and stuff. And then Princess Diana died in very similar circumstances. So they had to completely rework the ride, and they turned it into an awful, boring, dark ride where you just are in a slow moving limo thing and looking at really bad animatronics. I don't even know if I want to call them animatronics. They're basically figures that move sort of like this. And there are people like Jim Carrey and Whoopi Goldberg and basically anyone Disney had under contract at the time. It was a terrible ride. Michael Eisner greenlit it. Fuck Michael Eisner. And then it got gutted. I believe they turned it into a Muppets ride for a while, and I think currently it's been changed into a Monsters, Inc. ride. Still a dark ride, but I'm not sure.
About the plan,
That is, they did make a Defunct Land episode about it. 74 Quinn 74 says, is this the one with the Trump animatronic that was made from the Hillary animatronic? No, that's the Hall of Presidents.
other sites that have written about it.
I need to learn about Anthony Basiago. Seattle attorney Andrew Basiago claims U.S. sent him on time travels. Okay, we're going to need to read that later.
Greatest plan in the world. So, when the military tribunals start, they will...
Oh yeah, the Monsters, Inc. ride just put stuff over the figures. Hold on. Superstar Limo... Monsters, Inc. Let me see if I can show you. So, they didn't want to put a bunch of money into developing the Monsters, Inc. ride, so they literally just took the figures from Superstar Limo and, like, put shit over them. So they turned, like, the Jim Carrey figure into one of these things. Mike Mack says, that lady looks young for 60-year-old woman living undercover. And Jeff Millard says, I remember Andy Basiago, anti-2016. There's more of them, too, but you get it. They just switch stuff over. Surprised there's not more comparison pictures. It's an interesting thing they did.
be testifying at these tribunals, and then that they will be able to come out and tell people, tell the world about what happened. And I think...
Did I say Jim Carrey? I meant Drew Carey, sorry.
It's going to wake a lot of people up. It's fascinating. So anyway, there you go. So we'll have to hope and wait and see. I always say this about people who, you know, don't believe conspiracy theories and things. It doesn't mean you believe completely, but, you know, you can have an open mind to these things.
Having an open mind is fine, but if someone makes unfounded, extraordinary claims such as these, even an open-minded person, it's reasonable to say, I don't believe that because you haven't provided evidence for your claims. And you haven't. You've just made claims. Killjoy says, if your mind is so open your brain falls out, it's a problem. Yeah.
You don't know for sure because you've never seen them, you know? How could you? But, you know, don't have such a closed mind that you don't believe anything's possible. Keep it open, you know? Maybe it's true. And then, you know, if you have an open mind to things, then more and more evidence comes to you about it. And it gives it, you know, or that doesn't, you know what I mean? That's why I have an open mind to lots and lots of different things. Some things I find, you know, well, after a time, I don't believe them. And sometimes I believe these. Now, I've seen a lot of evidence about this. Because Field McConnell even talked about John being alive, and you know how they discovered that his plane had been sabotaged and everything. I mean, there's just way too much evidence
What evidence?
that he's alive and that he faked his death. So I'm not surprised about Diana, especially if she knew that she was in danger and she knew that they were like hybrid reptilians. That's what she must have seen them. And here's what I've heard about the whole hybrid thing with these people is they can keep, that's why they drink blood and consume children and stuff. It's to keep their human form.
I think Queen Elizabeth is doing a bad job then.
But if
and so was what's-his-face that died recently. What was his name? The older one that died, he was like 90-something. Philip. Yeah, I don't think he was doing a very good job hiding the lizardness. I guess he wasn't eating enough children. I can make fun of him. It's okay. He's dead.
But when they're sleeping, I think it is, then when they're sleeping that their guard is down and some of those features come out. And she probably saw that. That's
You can make fun of dead royals. I'm American. It's basically our culture.
what I'm guessing. So an interesting article, to say the least. And we'll wait and see. And I'm very excited if they do come out and, you know, reveal to the world that they're alive. That would be so, so great. All right, thanks for listening.
Oh no. Well, I should put together a montage. The real Satanist is Paul Rudd? Sure. Wait, are we supposed to look at this and go like, oh, Vlad the Impaler is the same person? Oh god, why am I blanking on his name now? Shit. Other royal guy who's an asshole. Most of them are assholes. But you know, this one specifically. Charles, thank you. Is he next in line of succession? When the Queen kicks it, is this motherfucker gonna be the King of England? Oh, that's fucking lame. We might take a break from Peter today. We've done a lot of Peter. Again, capitalists being capitalists is not a conspiracy theory. It's just a bad system. So that's her video on that. But good news, everyone! She has a video on how Michael Jackson and Elvis are also alive and working for Trump, too. So we get to watch that now. I'm skipping over the long intro, though. We don't need to watch that twice. Sorry, loud. God, she needs to get her audio mix under control. This one's shorter, though. This is a shorter video than her previous one.
Hey, Patriots.
Did we get 4chan, 8chan? I saw the words, at least. No, she didn't cite those, I don't think.
So there's a lot of buzz going around that
No, you cannot mark vampires because of Vlad. Vlad the Impaler is not implicitly a vampire.
some people that we thought were dead are still alive. And I found 3
Logarth Bonk, bad.
videos of a possibility for Michael Jackson, Princess Di,
Michael Jackson and Trump might actually get along. They both like underage people.
and Elvis.
Are we gonna start the Michael Jackson debate in chat? Chat. Here's a poll. Let's do this. We're just going there. This is a conversation that no one likes to have, but we're gonna do it. Did Jackson do it? And you know what it is. All right, answer this poll. Let's see where chat sits. I'm gonna vote. It's anonymous, so...
Well, I'm going to show you what I've got. First one here is Michael Jackson. He actually created a Telegram channel. And the only reason I know about it is because Ghost Ezra, who we think is Ezra Cohen Watnick, is pointed it out.
Lily Love Stuff says, of course Elvis helped Michael fake his death. That's his son-in-law. I think ex-son-in-law at the time of his death. They weren't still married, I don't think.
And a lot of people voice...
Princess Amelia says, I waive my right to anonymity. I voted yes. I'll talk about my opinion once the poll's over.
I'm suspicious of this, but I'm going to show you what...
Kevin Sorbo is Karen Sorbo. What did he do now? I'm not proud of this, but I just made a scene in public for the first time in my life. I walked into Starbucks and they asked me to put a mask on. I yelled, this is BS. I turned around and walked out. I know what you're thinking. My first mistake was walking into a Starbucks. Kevin Sorbo was turning into a Kevin Sorbo character from a bad Christian film.
What's posted here, you can make up your mind.
Yeah, Ghost Ezra, who she's citing, is the guy that's too out there, even for Peter, and he's a huge, open anti-Semite. He posts literal World War II Nazi propaganda on his page. His page, which has like 300,000 subscribers, I might add.
This letter was...
When did Peter turn against Ghost Ezra? A month and a half, maybe 2 months ago. It was something about failed predictions or something.
Posted on his Telegram site. Statement by MJ Innocent. Globalists say either serve us or die. If you stand against them, you will be assassinated. Assassination is not just killing. Assassination is the destruction of one's artistic reputation. Globalists have existed since the 16th century. Globalists want slavery. The first person to fight the globalists was Abraham Lincoln, who was killed.
Profane Priestess says, I mean, he probably did it, right? Regardless, Jackson was sketchy as fuck, and we should always err on the side of believing the victim. Chrysia says, wasn't it the Flat Earth stuff? Oh, some of that was the Flat Earth stuff, I think, too. And H. Baird said, I prefer better than Ghost Ezra, currently searching for signs of life, but there's nobody home. Yeah, I'm old. Daddy Sume says, okay, so here's my opinion on it. Michael was put on a drug that disrupted puberty when he was young to prevent his voice from cracking and to keep him from having signs of puberty. This is shown to have very long-term problems for development. I honestly don't know if he did it, but he did do things that were wildly inappropriate, like sleeping in the same room as children or having them at his ranch without parents. I think he probably did, but I can't really say if he did or not. All right, the poll is over. Yes won. I don't know came in second with 32% of the vote, and no came in at 16%. Interesting distribution. This is just my personal opinion. You know, I wasn't there, obviously. But I think Jackson did it. I think he did it. I always find it interesting when people defend Michael Jackson, because if literally anyone else, if anyone who didn't make Thriller had done a tenth of the things Michael Jackson did, there would be no question. The public wouldn't question it at all. I've never seen a person, in my opinion, make a good faith argument that Jackson didn't do it. It always feels to me like people just really, really feel bad because, how do I put it? They feel bad because they like his music. Michael Jackson made amazing music, and you can still like his music if you want. That's fine. I'm not going to stop you. I try and avoid it, but let's be real. Thriller fucking slaps, as does a lot of his catalog. But I think he did it. I don't think he was doing it... How do I put it? This is going to sound bad no matter how I say it. I don't think he was doing it maliciously, not that that fucking matters. Abuse is abuse. But I think he was abused a lot as a kid. I don't think he developed correctly. I think he had a lot of issues. and for some reason he felt very connected to kids, which led him to do some really, 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 really terrible things that are not okay. That doesn't justify it. I'm just saying there's a reason, but I think he did it, and it's still wrong. Mike Mack says, y'all be ignorant. Don't be ignorant. Hee hee. It almost feels like when a kid does that to other kids, but he isn't a kid. Yeah, that's actually a good way of describing it. I do think he probably very internally had the mind of an immature person. He probably had a severe case of arrested development, but it doesn't matter. He's an adult. You can't, you fucker. Like, it's ridiculous. Anyway, we don't need to make this a whole thing. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit.
John F. Kennedy was the second fighter. They tried hard to kill him. He was forced to... I can't read that very well.
Arrested development doesn't give you the right to boink kids. I completely agree. It's fucked up. There should have been intervention much earlier. But money and fame mean you can do whatever you want.
Die a fake death. I was the third fighter. They slandered me. I'm innocent. History will judge. And now he was judged. And I was forced to die a fake death.
Oh, someone is claiming that this is a message from Michael Jackson, who is secretly still alive. Oh no. And he's talking about globalists.
He is the fourth presidential candidate. He still stands strong, but it must be supported by the people. Do not lose your faith. The path of struggle is hard and long, and God is with us. People should not be deceived.
There's a difference between an excuse and an explanation. Michael Jackson's upbringing is in the explain camp. I agree.
People should not lose their faith. People should not be fooled by the false
You don't think Michael would be anti-Semitic? I don't either.
vaccine.
Plus, he was in the music industry. Like there's a lot of, like, Jewish individuals in the music industry, in the production side, and I don't think he was anti-Semitic. It wasn't the Illuminati, it was the South Park Police Department. God, that's an old reference. How old is that episode now? Wow.
Q has said everything. Q is not a newspaper. Q is sacred. Look at it with faith. I also have another picture of Michael Jackson with Ivanka when she and Eric when they were young. And it was, they were visiting, I guess.
That explains a lot about Eric. That's a terrible joke. I shouldn't have made that joke. That's not okay. I'm sorry.
So, Michael Jackson's known Donald Trump for a while. I mean, a long while. So, very interesting.
Oh, God. Sorry, that's really loud.
The tradition of
Hannah canceled. Yeah, that was going to happen sooner or later.
great performers from, and I really want you to hear what I have to say. The tradition of great performers from Sammy Davis Jr. to James Brown to Jackie Wilson to Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly.
Are they just going to cheer every time you mention someone?
The story is usually the same though, you know, these guys work really hard at their craft, but the story ends the same. They usually are broken, torn, and usually just sad, and the story is very sad in the end. Sony, being the artist that I am, at Sony, I've generated several $1 billion for Sony, several billion. And they really thought that my mind is always on music and dancing, and it usually is, but they never thought that this performer, myself, would outthink them.
Yeah!
So I'm leaving Sony a free agent. owning half of Sony. So I own half of Sony's publishing and I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because of it. But I just did good business, you know.
Tell him!
And
He's just shit talking Sony. I get it.
terminated.
Hydrate. Okay, it's people in a choir. If I'm Princess Diana, that's exactly what I do. I go to my own funeral, and I dress in black, ironically, and I hide behind objects like that, and I peek between them. It doesn't even look like her. Oh, it's Kate and William's wedding. That's my bad. Wow, she got younger over the course of like 30 years. That's cool. Not even 30, 20, whatever, 15. Mike Max says, good thing Macaulay Culkin isn't mentioned by her. Yeah.
I'm no longer under the power of the law. I'm no longer under the power of the law. But now I'm under the power of the grace of God that raised Jesus from the dead. I'm no longer
She thinks this guy is Elvis Presley.
walking in the old self and the old flesh and the world and the things that I used to walk in this life in sin, having dominion over me. Now that I've been raised from the dead, transformation's taking place. Like we're butterflies, you know, on caterpillar that turn into butterflies.
It's clearly not the same person. Their teeth are different. Their faces are... What?
You know, caterpillar was in the cocoon, wrapped himself up. And he had a new birth, and came out as a beautiful butterfly to flew away. He rose up and took those rags and ran. I get her. No matter how much.
Jesus Christ. Okay. So, in summary, no, Princess Diana's dead, Michael Jackson is dead, JFK Jr. is dead. Sorry. Not sorry for the Michael Jackson one. I mean, that's probably for the best.